This is the all-new 2013 Infiniti JX35 crossover. Now this is their latest fuel-efficient 7-seater crossover, and it's the mechanical cousin to the Nissan Pathfinder. I say cousin rather than sort of sister ship because there are some important mechanical differences between the Pathfinder and this Infiniti JX crossover, even though they share a decent number of mechanical components and a decent amount of interior parts as well. Now under the hood we get the same 3.5-liter V6 but a different transmission, and the all-wheel drive system, while very similar, has some key differences. In the Pathfinder, you can lock it into front-wheel drive mode, which helps improve your fuel economy, and you can also lock the center coupling, which mechanically connects the front and the rear differential together, so you have a bit more off-road performance, although nobody's going to take either the Pathfinder or the JX35 truly off-roading. So let's hop in and take a look. The JX is as nice as you would expect in an Infiniti product these days. Of course, there is a hard touch upper dash, but it does look nice, and I'm not really clear exactly how common it is for shoppers to go out there and start mauling their dash and complain about hard plastics. I know it is a great favorite of ours in the auto industry to complain about these hard plastics. How exactly that relates to shoppers, let us know in the comments section down below. But the rest of the dash has very nice soft touch parts, and of course we have the Infiniti corporate steering wheel, very similar to the steering wheel in the new Nissan Pathfinder as well. The center console here is very familiar to Infiniti shoppers as well, with exactly the same button layout, although the exact IP here is different than any other Infiniti product. The driver's seat is very comfortable for my 6-foot frame, although I am a little surprised that at this $55,000 price point I don't have 4-way adjustable lumbar support, and the passenger seat doesn't have any adjustable lumbar support whatsoever. We do, however, get a nice power tilt telescoping steering wheel with memory, of course. Seats in crossover vehicles usually get less comfortable the further backwards you go, and that's true in the JX, but it's not because these seats are actually less comfortable in and of themselves. I mean, the seat shape and the seat design and the padding are all quite comfortable. It's that the seat bottom cushion is a little bit low to the floor. But that's primarily because the rear seats are designed with children in mind, and you want your kids to be comfortable as well, so there's sort of a balancing act with seats rearward in the vehicle, and that's true in this JX35. Although I do have a decent amount of legroom. This front seat's adjusted for me at 6 feet tall, and I still have about 4 inches between this middle seat and the front seat. Now you do have the option of sliding these rear seats forward so that you can apportion space between that third row behind me and this second row, so you can give everybody a little bit of legroom. Now this particular vehicle is also equipped with the $1,700 rear entertainment package, which has wireless headphones and dual 7-inch screens in the back of the front headrests. Sharing parts of the Nissan Pathfinder has a benefit for the Infiniti JX. These middle seats don't fold and tumble like they do in most other crossover products like the Ford Explorer. Instead, they sort of collapse forward and then they slide forward on their rails so that you can have access to the third row seat. That allows you to keep a child seat in this middle seat. I wouldn't keep the child in the seat, mind you, while I'm doing this, but you can keep the seat in the car and then move the middle seat forward so you can have access to the rear seat. Being in the third row seat is kind of like being in a Moroccan restaurant because I'm not really sitting in a chair. It feels more like I'm sitting on a cushion that's just on the floor. The seat bottom is only about 7 or 8 inches off the floor in the JX, and that means that it's a little bit uncomfortable for my legs, which if I'm sitting in a position where I would fit behind the second row seat, you can see I've really got my legs up quite high. And I have to lean forward like this because I'm 6 feet tall, and if I try and lean back even this far, my head's touching the ceiling, and there's really no way to prevent that in this vehicle. This is not a problem unique to the JX, however. Most 3-row crossovers seem to be some variation of this theme. If you routinely carry more than 5 passengers in your mid-sized crossover vehicle and you need those emergency back seats, then you're really limited to something like a Ford Flex, which has a very tall rear seat to allow those adult-sized passengers to get back there. Trunk comfort in the JX is very good, and we get a solid 8 out of 10 score as far as crossover vehicles go, because this rear luggage compartment is very nicely finished, and the trunk hinges, most importantly, with this power lid, don't impede on the opening of the trunk space. Now, as you can see, I have the largest carry-on bag you can carry on a domestic flight. It fits back here quite nicely with this third row seat folded. It also fits back here fairly nicely with that third row seat up. But like all these vehicles, you can carry 5 passengers and their luggage, or you can carry 7 passengers and, maybe about 2 people's worth of luggage. Now there is a little cargo hatch under here, which is fairly nice. And as you can see, It carries a subwoofer over here, but the rest of the space is usable for your cargo and your groceries, etc. Now I'm just lounging around because although that middle seat has a novel folding mechanism to allow you to get access to the third row seat while you have a child seat in the vehicle, it also folds flat as well so that you can stretch out in the rear or carry a ladder or something like that. So how much will one of these set you back? Well, they start just over $41,000, and our tester here would ring in at just over $55,000 fully loaded. Let's take a look at the navigation infotainment systems in the JX35. First off, we have the 8-inch navigation screen here up top. Now this is optional, of course. We have the rotary dial with joystick function and of course an enter button in the middle. And if we continue down the console, you can see we have our direct access buttons to our sources, our CD player here, our tuning knob, volume knob, and of course our preset buttons. Back up at the top, you can see we have direct access buttons to our all-around view camera, which is an interesting and unique Infiniti feature. Now on this side here we have our forward view because we're not in reverse. We would have a backup camera there if we were in reverse. We can switch from the all-around view to a side camera that's on the right side of the vehicle, and we can also switch to the full screen mode there, turn it off. As you can see, the lines change if you're rotating the steering wheel. We also have cross traffic alert and blind spot alert as well in this particular system. Now compared to entries like BMW's entry, the Infiniti system adds this front camera, which makes this a bit more useful than the BMW system. And for some strange reason in the BMW systems, there are some contrast problems. So you can see the contrast on these two cameras here on the side is very good in the Infiniti system, and these images are merged together very well. And that's not something that the BMW system does terribly well. Over here you'll find exactly the same mapping software that you'll see in pretty much every other Nissan and Infiniti product. It's pretty good, and it also offers a 3D view, but it's not as high resolution or as snazzy as BMW's iDrive. We have our usual info screens here with traffic info and weather info, again delivered by XM satellite radio as many other Infiniti products do. We do also have the ability to get a local weather map here, which is kind of interesting. Back on that screen we have fuel economy as well. And I'm also showing you one of the better features of this Infiniti system, which is you have the ability to touch this screen as well as using this scroll knob to navigate around. That is fairly unique in this particular market. I can't think of any other system other than the Nissan and Infiniti systems which allow you to do both of those. You can also use the steering wheel controls. So if we go back over here to the info screen, you can use the steering wheel controls to navigate around, go back and forward in this particular system as well. iPod and USB integration is very good in this particular system, but there are no voice commands in this particular system for the music interface like this. You can voice command navigation and destination and particular screen options, but there's no way to navigate your iPod or USB device via a voice command. On the upside, you again still can control it via the steering wheel buttons, and you have fairly good control over the iPod and USB device, and the system is very responsive. Out on the road, we clocked a 0 to 60 time in the JX35 of 6.9 seconds. That's not bad, but it is notably behind the base V6 Ford Explorer, as well as the Buick Enclave with the 3.6-liter V6 engine from General Motors. Now, I'm really not quite clear what else you would compare the JX35 to, because the Lexus 7-seat SUVs are all very different from this concept. They're not unibody SUVs with a front-wheel drive bias. So exactly what we can compare the JX35 to, I'm not quite clear, other than that Buick Enclave or upper-level trim versions of the Ford Explorer. But then again, the Infiniti name is a little bit different than those mass market brands, so, you know, make your own comparisons there. Instead, in my mind, I guess you'd buy the JX35 because the QX56 is a little bit too fuel hungry for you. And compared to the QX56, the JX is only a little bit smaller on the inside. Now, the very back seats are not quite as comfortable as that QX model, but overall the front seats and middle seats are fairly competitive with the other Infiniti. But this JX35 is considerably more fuel efficient. We've been averaging 20.5 miles per gallon in our mixed driving over about 800 miles with this JX35. And on the highway, it's been fairly easy to get about 22-23 miles per gallon if you treat the JX very gently. And that's a level freeway going 65 to 70 miles an hour and trying to be careful with the throttle. So I'm not quite clear exactly how you achieve the 23 mile per gallon highway rating in mixed highway driving, true mixed highway driving, where you have varying speeds, and honestly on American freeways you're going 72 to 75 miles per hour for the most part. The JX rides and handles pretty much exactly like you'd expect a 7-seat luxury crossover to ride and handle. Things are very quiet here in the cabin. Bumps are soaked up fairly well by the suspension. The ride isn't as stiff as it is in the new Nissan Pathfinder. The JX is tuned slightly more comfortably. The CVT is a fairly acceptable companion in most situations. I think I would prefer a 6-speed transmission in a vehicle like this, but the CVT has some definite benefits, especially in hilly terrain. Now, you can't tow with the JX35 like you can with the Pathfinder. So the Pathfinder's towing capacity is rated at 5,000 pounds, and this JX35 is considerably less than that, due primarily to that transmission, as we're told, because this transmission is essentially the same as the transmission in the Murano and other Nissan vehicles, and the one in the Pathfinder uses a new heavy-duty transmission that allows it to have that higher towing capacity. Of course, no modern Infiniti would be complete without all the latest in electronic nannies and safety systems, and our particular JX has just about every option box checked. We have the all-around monitor, which displays a bird's eye view in the center console to help you parallel park or navigate tighter streets. We have lane departure warning, lane departure prevention, and dynamic collision assistance, as well as this interesting thing called intelligent brake assistant. That's combined with the active accelerator pedal as well. We'll try and explain all those in an easy-to-use form. Basically, the accelerator pedal in this JX35 has a little motor in it, and so it acts like a normal accelerator pedal where you can press it down, but also it can press back up at you. So if the car thinks that you're driving uneconomically and you're in eco mode, it'll press that pedal back up at you to tell you to try and be more judicious in your pedal usage. And if it thinks you're going to rear end something, it'll push that pedal back up at you and tell you that it's time to start braking the car. Now, Intelligent Brake Assist works with that system and will automatically brake the car for you down to a complete stop. And this is not radar cruise control, because this car has radar cruise control as well. This is something separate. This is Intelligent Brake Assist. So if you're just driving normally and you don't have the radar cruise control system activated and you're in stop and go traffic, that Intelligent Brake Assist will take you to a complete stop without you pressing on the brake pedal. Of course, caveats and traffic roaming around you accepted, the system works fairly well. So who is the Infiniti JX for? Well, it's for that person that wants something more fuel efficient than the Infiniti QX, but likes the Infiniti style lines. Someone that doesn't need to tow, someone that doesn't need to carry 7 people in absolute comfort, but they want the security of that extra third row seat just in case. The fuel economy is pretty good when you compare it to the Infiniti QX. It's really not that much better than any of the other entries in this segment. It is about 25% better than the Infiniti QX, but it's fairly similar to the likes of the Buick Enclave, the Ford Explorer, and the Volvo XC90. This is a little bit better because of its CVT, however, in the city. If, however, you're really just looking for a 7-seat vehicle with high fuel economy, then you shouldn't look any further than that Ford Explorer with a 2-liter EcoBoost engine, because it gets 28 miles per gallon on the highway, which is significantly higher than the JX. It's also significantly higher than the Nissan Pathfinder.